Given the high costs of developing high-technology weaponry, any approach that promises to save time and money is of potential value. When the British Army took its latest surface-to-air missile into service at the end of 2021, it was not only fielding a replacement for the Aegis Rapier system, but was also showing how an effective weapon can be developed by exploiting existing technology and combining this with carefully selected new developments. The all-new approach to developing military hardware has traditionally been favored by the UK, but has often resulted in programs that ran over budget and well behind schedule. However, reusing technology from MBDA's Advanced Short-Range Air-to-Air Missile, ASRAAM short-range air-to-air missile, and combining this with state-of-the-art developments has allowed the UK to develop two short-range SAM systems based on a common missile, the Sky Sabre system for the UK's Royal Navy and the Sky Sabre for the British Army. Creation of a radar-guided short-range SAM system able to operate by day or night in all weather conditions was not practical during the second half of the 20th century. Semi-automatic command-to-line-of-sight (SACOS) guidance offered a simpler solution and was used by the UK for the Rapier, which used optical SACOS with a later add-on radar automatic command-to-line-of-sight (ACOS) capability, and Seawolf, which used optical SACOS and radar-based and ACOS modes. By the early years of the 21st century, the UK faced the problem that Rapier and Seawolf would both need to be replaced around 2020 when these were expected to reach the end of their respective service lives. Replacement systems would have to cope with a target set that included fast jets, helicopters, cruise missiles, and unmanned aerial vehicles. Media described potential future targets as being typified by high speed, rapid evasive maneuvers, low signatures, and advanced countermeasures. By that time, radar guidance technology had progressed to the point where it seemed possible to use this in a new lightweight missile able to deliver all-weather day and night capability. BDA, then MBD, and the UK MOD's Defence Evaluation and Research Agency, DERA, now succeeded by DSTOL, jointly funded a first-phase CM and Technology Development Program, TDP, to work on several critical technologies including a soft vertical launch, SVL, demonstrator, a low-cost active radar seeker, and a dual-band two-way data link. Previous UK-designed SAM systems had relied on traversable launchers, a solution retained for Rapier and the original GTAS 25 version of Seawolf, but the GTAS 26 version of Seawolf, first fielded in the 1980s, marked the first use by the UK of the hot vertical launch technique. It teamed the basic Seawolf missile with a booster motor and turnover pack that separated after use. This configuration increased the range of the system from 6.5 kilometers to 10 kilometers. However, its use against short-range targets is reported to have sometimes involved the missile and booster making a post-launch maneuver of more than 180 degrees in elevation, which briefly resulted in these heading back towards the launch ship before executing a sharp turn that brought the combination onto a low-level trajectory heading away from the ship and towards the target. Although vertical launching was adopted for many SAM systems, the hot launch technique that these used posed several problems. One was the need to cope with the efflux generated if the rocket motor of the missile or booster was ignited in the launch cell. Another was the need to expend a portion of the boost phase energy on the task of orienting the missile in the required direction. There was also the possibility that a malfunctioning missile which has failed to leave the launcher could destroy its launch cell and damage neighboring cells. Cold vertical launch is an alternative technique in which the missile is ejected from its storage container by a mechanism such as a telescoping rod or captive piston driven by the efflux from a gas generator. Once the missile is clear of the launch container, an orientation system such as sideways firing thrusters turns the weapon in the direction of the target. Once this has been done, the missile's rocket motor is ignited and powered flight begins. The entire burn time is used to power the missile toward the target. Since the missile has been vertically launched, the system has a full 360 degrees coverage. This avoids the need to fly energy bleeding over-the-shoulder maneuvers that would decrease the range performance of a missile launch to engage a rear sector target. It should be noted that cold vertical launch technology is not altogether new, having been used by the Soviets starting in the late 1970s on the S-300P family and subsequently implemented on the Tor S-300V, S-400, S-350, and S-500 air defense system families. However, it has been a comparatively rare sight on Western air defense systems, which have tended toward either hot vertical launch or traversable launchers. Between 2002 and 2005, MBDA conducted a series of demonstration firings in order to demonstrate the planned soft launch scheme. These trials used a missile about 3 meters long, whose all-up weight was about 100 kilograms, slightly more than the 87 kilograms of the ACE-RAM. If a standard ACE-RAM motor had been used, this would have created a range safety problem. Before conducting a missile test, engineers need to define the area of terrain that a missile flight will place at risk. The worst case from the point of view of safety is that a newly launched missile will turn to face the worst possible direction, then make no further maneuvers but fly till it runs out of energy. The resulting distance from the launch point may be inconveniently long, but any location closer to the launch point could be at risk from a malfunctioning missile. In the event of a guidance failure, the missile used for these early cold vertical launch trials could have landed up to 60 kilometers from the launch point if powered by an off-the-shelf ACE-RAM rocket motor. So, in order to meet range safety requirements, a short-burn version of the ACE-RAM motor was used for these test firings. One interesting feature of the chosen configuration was that the 8 side firing thrusters, arranged as 4 pairs located directly below the control fins, were a permanent part of the missile rather than being located in a tail-mounted subunit that could be jettisoned after use. Although releasing the spent thruster unit would have reduced the weight of the missile before beginning powered flight, the resulting weight saving would be offset by the weight of the missile-mounted hardware needed to conduct the jettisoning. The latter would also have added a potential failure mode to the weapon. The land-based solution. Sky Sabre combines the MBDA launcher and its associated missiles with a SAAB Giraffe Agile Multibeam (AMB) radar and a RAFA Surface-to-Air Missile Operational Center (SAMOC), also referred to as the Tactical Operations Center (TOC), which serves as the command post. A battery will typically consist of a command post, a multifunctional radar, 4 to 6 transporter, erector, launchers, TLs, plus associated supporting assets. The system was not designed to launch missiles whilst on the move. Before an engagement can begin, the radar, command post, and the associated launchers must be in place and set up. The use of RF links avoids the need to deploy, connect, and restow conventional cables. This greatly reduces setup and teardown time, but could make the system potentially more vulnerable to enemy EW measures. Sky Sabre assessed. Although the CMM missile inherited much of its technology from ACE-RAM and uses many components from latter, including the main fuselage, rocket motor, laser proximity fuse, and warhead, it represents a major step forward in short-range SAM capability. While the U.S. attempt to combine 2 different guidance systems in the General Dynamics smaller short-range SAM some 60 years ago was unsuccessful, MBDA engineers were now able to do this with great success, and in a missile weighing 99 kilograms, just over twice the weight of the 43 kilograms Rapier MQB that it would replace, and less than 2/3 the weight of the 165 kilograms 9M331 vertically launched missiles used by Russia's 9K331 Taurus-1 SA-15 Gauntlet short-range SAM system. No details have been released concerning the missile's accuracy, but according to Major Tim Oakes, the senior training officer for the 16th Regiment Royal Artillery Units training program, Sky Sabre is so accurate and agile that it is capable of hitting a tennis ball-sized object traveling at the speed of sound. It can control the flight of 24 missiles simultaneously whilst in flight, guiding them to intercept 24 separate targets. In terms of maximum range, it eclipses older systems such as Rapier and Tor, while the Rapier could manage only 8.2 kilometers, and Tor, depending on the variant, has a range of up to 12 kilometers, using 9M331, 15 kilometers, using 9M331D, or 16 kilometers, using the newest 9M338K. By contrast, CMM can be used against targets over 25 kilometers away, and as such the British Army considers it to be a medium-range system. It is worth noting that the 25 kilometers figure for CMM represents usable range against a realistic target, rather than a theoretical maximum range. As described earlier, the hardware used for early flight tests would have imposed a safety distance of 60 kilometers had a standard ACE-RAM rocket motor been used. However, this does not imply that CMM has anything like this as its maximum range. In combat, the target is unlikely to be flying straight and level, but could well be maneuvering either to avoid an incoming missile or to accomplish its own mission. Wayward SAMs can impact the ground many times further than their practical range against aerial targets, as was the case in 2019, when a stray Syrian S-200V landed in Cyprus over 220 kilometers from its launch point. Like any other missile fired against an air target, CMM is subject to the missile engineer's rule of thumb that it needs to be able to pull a maneuver involving 5 times the G of any defensive maneuver executed by the target. The resulting expenditure of energy by the missile will reduce its range to well below the safety distance used during missile trials. So that figure of over 25 kilometers for the maximum range of CMM represents a real-world value for a tactical engagement. That said, a hostile aircraft unable or unwilling to conduct hard anti-missile maneuvers might find it advisable to keep a slightly greater distance from a Sky Sabre battery. Thanks you very much for watching. Don't forget to support this channel by liking and commenting your opinions here. See you in the next video.